We're going to jump into the ninth chapter. We're going to begin the ninth chapter of Sotah. And mysteriously, the ninth chapter begins, Egla arufa bilshon hakodesh, the heifer whose neck is to be broken, is to be said in the holy language. Shenemar kimatzeh halal ba'adama. Because it said if a corpse is found slain on the ground. And we look at this Mishnah, and of course, it's completely incomprehensible. So we need to go back and look at the Pesukim. So if you don't mind, we've seen the beginning of the Mishnah, Egla Arufa Bilshon HaKodesh. The Egla Arufa is in the holy language, and of course we learnt at the end of the seventh chapter that there's a whole string of recitations which can only be made in the holy language. And some of those are the recitations made when the people go into battle. That's the subject of the eighth chapter. And the Egla Arufa, well, this is in the holy language as well, and it's in the ninth chapter. So let's just back up and let's look at the verses. Let's look at the Pesukim. We're in the 21st chapter of Sefer Devarim of Deuteronomy. Ki matzeh halal b'adama asher Adonai Elohecha noten lecha l'rishta. If a corpse is found, this is a mysterious corpse, it's found on the ground that the Lord your God gives you to inherit. Nofel basadeh, fallen in the field. All this language is going to be very significant. The Mishnah is going to learn from the language. Fallen in the field, nofel basadeh. Lo noda mi hikahu, and nobody knows who struck him. We've already said, by the way, that one of the themes of the Mishnah of Sotah is that we're clarifying uncertainty. We are clarifying things which are not known. And of course, the corpse found in the field is a classic example of something which is not known. And maybe that's why it's brought into the Mishnah of Sotah. It has no other relationship with the Sotah other than the language, which is Hebrew, and the fact that we're clarifying uncertainty. So what do we do? Your elders and your judges shall go out. Your elders and judges shall go out and measure to the nearest towns. So, well, maybe nobody's responsible. Well, we're going to skip a few verses and read on. So they're going to go through this ceremony of the heifer with the broken neck, and we'll find out about this in the Mishnah. And right at the end of the ceremony, they say, of course, this is what they say in Hebrew. And they use the words ve'anu. They answer, ve'anu ve'amaru, they answer and say. And of course, we've already learned that this word anu is associated with Hebrew, because when the Levi'im go to Mount Gerizim and Mount Eval to bless the people, the text there says Ve'anu HaLevi'im Kol Ram, the Levi'im anu, they answer with a great voice. And we know that the word kol is associated with Hebrew because in the revelation at Sinai, we have kol ram for the Levi'im, and in the revelation it's on the mountain, the text says Moshe yidaber ve'ha'olim ya'anenu v'kol. Moshe speaks, and God answers him. Ya'anenu, it's the same verb. God answers him b'kol, with a voice. And of course, we know that God speaks in the holy tongue. So the Levi'im were speaking in the holy tongue, and here the elders and the judges are saying ve'anu ve'amaru, they answer and say. So this must be in the holy tongue too. So what do they say? Yadeinu lo shafru, our hands did not shed. Perhaps our hand did not shed. There's a correcative on the text, so we don't know whether it's singular or plural. Maybe this responsibility is specific to the elder who's reciting, or maybe it's general to the city. We don't know. Our hand or our hands did not shed this blood, nor did our eye see. So we claim innocence, and yet at the same time, we're going to ask for forgiveness. Kaper la'amcha Yisrael, forgive your people Israel. So it's quite clear we're measuring to the nearest town. The elders and the judges of the town are going to say, our hands did not shed this blood. And yet, we are also going to ask for forgiveness. So it's quite clear that there is some responsibility. In a normal society, in a well-run society, someone can't just go out into the desert and mysteriously die. People don't just die in the desert. Something had to happen, and that is a sign of some social breakdown. And we need to take account of that. So that is why we're going to measure to the nearest town, because the nearest town needs to take responsibility for the death. With that in mind, we can come back now to the Mishnah. Now we can understand the Mishnah. So Egla Arufa, the heifer whose neck is going to be broken, this is part of the ceremony. Bilshon HaKodesh, that it's going to be in the holy language. Because it said, if a corpse is found slain on the ground, then your elders and nofel basadeh, slain on the ground, lo noda mihi kahu. We don't know who's struck it, and your elders and judges shall go out. So the Mishnah then picks up, that's the end of the verse. Ushloshami beit din hagadol shebirushalayim hayu yotzin. 3 from the high court in Jerusalem used to go out. So this was a big deal, big deal. They'd send someone out from the great, they'd send 3 people out from the great Sanhedrin. And Rabbi Yehuda says they'd send more. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Chamisha, Rabbi Yehuda says 5. Because the verse says, Zekenecha, your elders. Well, that's 2, clearly. Veshoftecha, and your judges. Well, that's 2. Ve'ein beit din shakul, and we can't have a court with an even number of judges because, of course, they might not come to a majority verdict. Can't have an even beit din. Mosifin alehem orechad, so they add 1 more. So Rabbi Yehuda says there's 5. Okay, let's keep going. Maybe the corpse were found buried underneath a heap. Talui bailan, maybe it was found hanging in a tree. Tsaf al panei hamayim, maybe it was found floating on the water. Lo hayu orfim, we don't break the neck of the heifer. We don't do the breaking of the heifer because the verse says, Shenemar ba adamah, the corpse has to be on the ground. There's something about being on the ground. Makes you think about Cain and Hevel. Kol demei achicha tzoakim min ha'adamah. The voice of your brother is calling out from the ground. Of course, Adam and Adamah both come from the same root. Mankind and earth come from the same root. So maybe there's some primeval call here to the first brothers and the first murder. And of course, this is the theme of the whole of the book of Bereshit, that, can brothers exist without murdering one another? So maybe that's what's going on. Anyway, it has to be ba'adamah, it has to be on the earth. Lotamun bagal, not hidden in a heap. Nofel, lo talui ba'ilan, fallen down, not hanging up in a tree. Basadeh, lo tzaf al panei hamayim. It's going to be in a field and not floating on the surface of the water. Nimtza samuch lispar. It was found near the border. Le'ir sheyesh ba goyim, or a city with Gentiles. Or le'ir she'ein ba beit din, or a city in which there's no court. Lo hayu or fin, they would not break. Really interesting comment here. Somehow this halacha seems to apply to a Jewish society with courts. There are different standards for Gentiles. Maybe in Gentile society it's possible for someone to just go missing and die in the desert. In a Jewish society with a court, it is not possible. So different standards. Lo hayu modadin eila le'ir sheyesh ba beit din. So they'd only measure the distance from a city in which there was a court. Nimtza muchuvan bein shtei arayot. If it was found between two cities, exactly between two cities, shtehen mivyot shtei agalot. Both of them would bring, well, the two of them would bring two heifers. I think the sense is that what they each bring one, but between them, lots of people would come out and they'd bring two heifers. Divrei Rabbi Eliezer. That's according to Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer always takes things, by the way, to the logical extreme, right? He'll build a fire on Shabbat to smelt a knife, to carry out Brit Milah, to carry out a circumcision. He always takes things because it's a mitzvah on Shabbat. So Rabbi Eliezer always takes things to their logical conclusion. Ve'ein Yerushalayim mevia egla arufa, and Jerusalem does not bring a heifer. Jerusalem does not bring a heifer whose neck is to be broken. Maybe there's something special about Jerusalem. We learned, I think, in the first chapter of Yoma about a death in the temple. One priest stabs another, and Rabbi Tzadok runs out and says, well, look, who shall we bring the heifer for the city of Jerusalem or for the temple courts? But the Mishnah says, actually, we do not bring a heifer for Jerusalem. Maybe the assumption is that, perhaps these things can happen in a regional city, but in Jerusalem, the city which has governance, which has grace, which has government, it's not possible for someone just to be found dead in the desert.